we're going to be ready to rock and roll here. So just a reminder, we are going to record this session, and Terry, will you do the honors to record?
Yep.
All right. Okay, so just want to give another welcome to all of our guests, all of our attendees and our guests tonight for this this series or this event in our series, Propel Your Career with LinkedIn. And so thank you for joining us tonight for our in-depth workshop on the best tips for media and PR professionals who want to upgrade their LinkedIn game. Whether you are a seasoned professional looking for a new opportunity or freelance work, or a new to the industry communications pro, our panelists are ready to present valuable tips on how to optimize your profile, participate in groups, position yourself for a new opportunity, understand the shifting perceptions of journalism, PR, and job hunting. And if you're an agency owner or a freelancer like me, using LinkedIn for business development and attracting new clients. And again, as I had mentioned at the top of the program, please put in your LinkedIn profile into the chat, and let's start making those connections with each other. Also, a reminder to put any of your questions in the Q&A function. So it'll just be easier for us to monitor that way. So now let's meet our panelists. After attending Howard University, Jazz Adams began working closely with small business owners to get a better understanding of their marketing, sales, and recruitment needs. They have launched projects for a wide range of people and industries, including nonprofits, small businesses, entrepreneurs, and creatives. As Director of Strategy at Wayward, Jazz gets the opportunity to develop digital strategies and campaigns for challenger brands who are making a significant impact in class and gender equity. Sage Pierce is the Human Resources Director at NBC7 Telemundo 20. She transitioned to Human Resources at NBC after 22 years in broadcast journalism. Sage led the NBC San Diego News team as an executive producer for 12 years, which included overseeing editorial content, recruiting, hiring, and guiding teams through periods of unprecedented change. She is a two-time Emmy Award winner and recipient of the Tribute to Women in Industry Award in 2010. So now let's get started. I'm going to turn this over to Jazz.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet everybody. I'm really excited to be here today. As Denise was just saying, I work with Wayward, so I work very closely with a lot of people on a lot of different things, but social is usually a really big part of that, specifically LinkedIn. So we'll kind of start by looking at the different areas of the profile and how to actually boost and optimize your profile so it shows up correctly. So just kind of like, why is this important? So of course, we know like social profiles that are fully completed, they're more likely to show up on Google, pretty much like 40% more likely to be found. Relationship-driven social media strategy cuts the time from initial lead to that deal close or that last phone call by close to 20%. And then traffic from LinkedIn has a conversion rate that is almost 3 times higher than both Twitter and Facebook. So LinkedIn is really the app for professionals. It's really where you want to be to grow your network and to connect with people. So getting into the different areas of the profile, we have the profile image, of course, banner, headline, about summary, featured, your skills and endorsements, and your recommendations. And so we'll kind of go over all of those now. Starting with this is an example of a well-optimized profile. They have a customized header, banner image. They have a well-developed kind of about summary, a very strong headline that says what they do, where they are, and things like that. So this is just one kind of example of what a profile should look like. But now we'll kind of get into how to build that profile and how to make it, as awesome as we want it to be. So starting with your profile image, I use myself as an example. I think it's really important that we always show up as ourselves. We connect with humans. We don't connect with logos. We don't connect with brands. We connect with people. So it's really important to have a profile image that is you. It's not a logo. It's not a blank silhouette. Like I said, I do a lot of social media. That's really my thing. So I have a phone in mind, but usually you wouldn't want a phone, of course. Maybe if you're a photographer or do video editing, you can have a camera or something cool like that. But something that kind of shows who you are, how you show up, what you're about, not including anything like text or heavy edits, because of course you only have a very small area for that image. And then of course, always headshots always work. So just very straightforward, hey, this is me smiling at the camera. Those are always perfect as well. Then from that, we want to get into the banner. LinkedIn isn't like an Instagram where you have tons of images, or Facebook where there's so many images and videos and stories and fun things like that. We don't have as many visual elements. So when we do get the visual elements, we want to take advantage of them. Your banner being the second, or actually the one that people see first. So your banner is a great way to kind of get that attention and one, show off your brand. So if you have some brand colors, or you've kind of made a logo for yourself, you can add some of that there. You can kind of add in maybe some of your published work or your published images, or anything that kind of relates to the areas of expertise. So if you are a PR professional or a publicist, you might have that very small in the lower right-hand corner or something like that. Just another general bonus tip is just kind of for brand consistency. If you make a brand image, a banner image on LinkedIn, go ahead and carry it over to Facebook as well, to just keep all of those things kind of consistent so that people kind of follow the visual branded thread. So then from that, we then go to your headline. And so I don't know how often you all are actually searching on LinkedIn, but when you do, it shows a person's name, their photo, and then the headline. The headline is the only thing that follows you across the platform. So it's how you will always show up. So having a really strong headline, it's almost more important than having a really strong just summary, because people don't really automatically read the summary, but they definitely read in your headline. So making a headline that very clearly kind of shows what you do, why you do what you do. So why you're passionate about the work that you do, what led you to this work, why it's important to continue this work, or who you work with, or who you want to work with or work for. I put in some examples. Your headline is also a great place to toot your own horn. It is when we should do that. So if you are award winning, like Sage, let us all know. Let us know that you're award winning. Put it in your headline. Let us know, add some spaces so it's visually not too much. But go ahead and add in all the things you do. So if you're a journalist, producer, news editor, add that as your, as what you're doing. Or if you're a trusted PR professional, or words like trusted or experienced, those kind of words also kind of add in some of that extra credibility as well. So adding those in are also an option. So these are some examples, but just kind of look at what you do, what you care about, and then come up with one that's like, this is me in a nutshell, and drop it there. So then from that, we go into the about summary. By default, a lot of people look at LinkedIn like a long form resume, which maybe, but that's what the bottom portion of the page is for, where we list our experience and our education. But you want to use your your summary part, to tell a story, tell your brand story, tell, what led you to this work, why you care about it, what led you to communication specifically, maybe do community relations or community or things like that. So what led you to that? How do you go about your work? How do you work with the people that you work? How do you work with your clients? When you consult, how do you consult? Are relationships most important to you? Are you very frontward facing? Are you always, you're quick to answer the phone and available? Tell some of those stories into your about summary. This is also a great place to kind of add in some of those keywords that relate to what you do. If you add in the keywords, hopefully as people search for them, so say I am a company who's having just a PR nightmare, I need help. I'm stressed out. I need help. I'm on LinkedIn asking other, business owners who they know. I might be looking for, hey, any PR specialists in the San Diego area. Maybe if you have some of the terms in it, your profile will hopefully show up. It's a lot like Google and SEO and really technical stuff like that. But using some of the very clear language, not as much just the industry language, but very clear, like general language to kind of describe what you do, will hopefully allow your page to kind of show up as well. And then the final tip here is to add a call to action. So if you're ready to connect, say, hey, let's connect, send me a message, shoot me an email, check out my portfolio on my website. Let them know that there's a way to take that next step to kind of start building that relationship with you right there in that section. So skills and endorsements are like a lot like social proof. We want to believe that someone's amazing at all things, but we believe it a little bit more if a friend told us or someone we worked with before. So your skills and endorsements are basically that section. You are able to add a maximum of 50 skills, but of course, people aren't as likely to scroll through all of them. So pick the ones that are really where you shine, really where you, where the people you work with are saying you excel. Those are the ones you definitely want to include. Pinning your top 3 skills to the top actually will allow hopefully should allow your content to also show up more. As you do add more skills, to your profile, you can definitely add some of your first degree connections to endorse them. Of course, it's always easier. Social is always a two-way street. You got to give as much as you receive. So if you're asking for endorsements, let's give them out as well. Maybe you give them first. And then after that, then maybe people feel, more inclined to want to leave you endorsements as well. So just remember that it's a two-way street. Give a little, receive a little. This is how it all works, and it's how we'll all kind of connect more. And then just another kind of stat here. Candidates that have the LinkedIn verified badge, that verified skill badge, are actually about 30% more likely to be hired on LinkedIn. So they do have a few skills assessments, whether they relate to just like other like little industry things. If you see a few that, kind of bubble what you do, then go for it, try it out. There's nothing wrong with it. If anything, it makes you appear more, more credible and more experienced. So it's definitely a way to go. Recommendations, just more social proof, more credibility. They're more important. I think they should be a bit more than personal than just endorsements. They're really illustrating the story and telling those personal testimonials. So if I work with this client and from the first phone call to the last phone call, it was absolutely amazing. That's the kind of story that people want to hear about. They want to hear about the fact that we worked very closely together, or that I was available for them this time, or those kind of things. So we want to use recommendations to kind of tell stories. And again, just like the last one, if you give more recommendations, you're more inclined to receive them, of course. But basically using those to, again, tell those stories. So not just, yes, they were amazing at this thing, but also as well, that they made me feel like this. I felt supported. I felt like they were on my team as opposed to just a consultant. They were actually a part of my team. Those things are really important as people are kind of scrolling through. You can use the drop-down menu on your page to actually reach out to specific contacts. So maybe there's people that you've worked with before that will give you just a stellar recommendation. Go ahead and find them and send them a message. I think that we should always personalize our requests. It's not enough just to say, hey, leave me a recommendation, please. Like, give a little bit more, say, hey, I really enjoyed when we worked together last year. I had a lot of fun. The project was amazing from start to finish. Would you mind leaving me a recommendation? I'll leave you one as well. It was awesome. I just want to tell everybody how awesome it was. So that's kind of what what we can use that for. And then just finally, quality is always more important than quantity, because of course people don't really read. Most people won't read 15 to 20 to 25 recommendations unless they're doing some serious vetting. But if anything, 5 to 10, 5 to 7, I'd say that's kind of a good number to start out with, because those are the ones that definitely appear on your profile. And then just some other, other best practices. So of course, spotlighting your services at the top of the page, making it very clear what you do. Using your feature section to show some of your published work, or links to your website, or links to your digital portfolio, or even you can add some maybe you had content on LinkedIn that did really, really well. Maybe you did a video. I know Sage is going to talk about video a little bit later. So maybe you do a video that does really, really well on LinkedIn, and you want to add that and pin that to your profile. That's a good way to get people to see, this is what I'm all about. This is how I show up on this platform. And then of course, making sure that you list any awards and recognition received, because we just want to we should toot our own horns on this profile, on this platform. So that's definitely a good thing to do as well.
Jazz, we have a question. Kristen is asking, how often should one update their recommendations?
So I think we should work recommendations if you can. I think you should work recommendations as just your normal kind of practice. I think that it's less about just having, I don't think people, of course people will look to see, like, we don't want your last recommendation to be from 2014. Of course, we want something a bit more recent. That's why we just get in the habit of leaving them and receiving them. So every couple of months when you finish a project, go ahead and leave one for somebody, and also ask them to leave you one. Just so you're maybe make it part of your offboarding. When you're finished your project with somebody, you say, hey, this was great. I love working with you. Let's leave each other recommendations real quick, if you have a moment. Or maybe you add it to your email signature, or something like that. There's a lot of ways you can go about it, but I'd say just make it a part of your regular, like, seasonal kind of practice to get those recommendations in.
Right. And I think the way that you frame that, it just seems so natural to ask, right? And the more you do it, the more practice you have, the more easier it'll ask. Because I know for me, I'm like, ooh, I get a little nervous about asking somebody for a recommendation, and but I think the way you just positioned it, it just sounds like really natural. So that's really great.
I also say that generally the best time to ask for a recommendation or a testimonial or client feedback is always after that really big win that they had. So if you just finished, if you got them out of this awful nightmare and you help them get over that mountain, that huge volcano of chaos, that's a great time to ask for, because they're feeling relief. They're feeling relief. They're feeling happy. They're starting to feel settled. So let's go ahead and get this recommendation while they're really, really happy. That's another kind of great time to do it. So of course your profile set up. So now it's okay, what do we do actually on the platform? What do we post and how do we connect with people? Looking at connections. So LinkedIn is not Facebook, it's not Instagram, it's very specific. So you don't want to just add any and everybody. You don't, it's not about just having a very large following or being an influencer in that way. It's more so about having meaningful connections with people that you actually want to work with. So a way to kind of tailor that is looking for people who, like I said, you want to work with, or people who have similar career paths to yours, because also that's how we help one another and kind of expand our networks, across the board. Of course, influencers in your industry to kind of see what they're doing, what they're not doing that you could probably do. If you have something in particular that they're not capitalizing the market on, go ahead and start doing that thing. Or then, of course, leaders in your industry, associations and things like that. If you are requesting a person that you haven't already worked with, so someone that doesn't know you, that's just, a person you found on there, always personalize the message. It's always much more well received than just a very standard, I think we should connect. Always personalize and say, hey, I saw your profile, we have this in common, or I also do this, or I saw that you were a part of this group. Maybe we should connect and talk about some stuff soon. Just always personalize it. It always helps. And then finally, of course, we know that what I always see, recruiters are extremely active on LinkedIn. So you're never, always use your discretion with recruiters, because they're recruiting. So they're driven, they're there for that purpose alone. And so if you are looking for a particular role right now, then that might be useful. But of course, do your due diligence and vet them properly and make sure that they're actually with the right company, because there are so many recruiters across LinkedIn. So then after that, of course, it's about, the content strategy. So we're here. So what do we actually post? What do we do? It's of course, having a decent number of connections is important, but it's more important to really show up on the platform and really have an active role within your connection. So you want to begin to post on LinkedIn the same way you do on other platforms. Of course, we're not, on your Instagram, you're probably posting 10 stories a day and posting your breakfast and your coffee. We don't want those kind of posts on LinkedIn, but we should make a point to post there the same way you would, regularly update maybe a blog or something like that. So I actually usually recommend on here multiple days a week. If you can do 3 to 5 posts a week, you're good to go. You can space them out, whether it's Monday, Wednesday, you pick some weekend days, you can do whatever, but kind of show up on the platform. I think another way to make sure that you kind of show up and get that engagement are to use some of the features that are not as popular on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is a lot of articles. It's so many articles and things like that. So if you can use, for example, LinkedIn now has live, which is a brand newer thing since it started this year. So if you can go live and have a pre-live, like a session where you're just talking freely about a particular subject or something that you are an expert in, that's perfect. Or longer form things like LinkedIn publications, videos and real photos. I try to emphasize that here. Real photos of you, your people, the work that you're doing, your community, that will always serve you better than any stock photo ever will. LinkedIn is just full of, like I said, articles with stock photos. So if you want to stand out, show yourself, show your projects, show your team, show all of those things off, because that's how you'll stand out and appear more real, because we are all real people. And then, of course, as I was saying, longer form captions and comments. So telling more stories, not just very quick, short, bite-sized things. Groups are a great way to, again, build those connections and build that community. There are so many groups on LinkedIn, but there are a few ways to kind of look for groups that you should, possibly be a part of. So look for groups that are based on your industry or your target industry. So if you want to work with particular industries, look for those groups and then join those as an expert in your respective field, or certain specialties in the creative skill sets, region. So there are some groups that are just for SoCal and San Diego and things like that, or also identity. So groups that are for Black and Indigenous people of color, or women in journalism and things like that. Think about all the different things that kind of make you who you are and what you do. And I promise there's a group for it. And there's people that are wanting to connect with you and with others about it. So join those groups. Group sizes, we want them to be kind of medium to large. If there's a group with 500,000 members, you're less inclined to show up or to get that engagement. So look for ones that are somewhere between 2,000 to 20,000 or something like that. But anything over a couple of 100,000, it's just a little bit too competitive. It's too many posts a day. When you're in the groups, share your own best practices, share your ideas, share your struggles. If you have a question or something you're dealing with and you just need to kind of, brainstorm and just kind of get it out to people who do the work that you do, share that. Show up kind of authentically. I think it's a good way to position yourself, yes, as a resource, but then also just as a real community member. I'm here to help. Whether I have the answer or not, I'm here to help and kind of show up and congratulate your successes and things like that. Which a part of that, of course, is engaging with their content as well. So the same way you're putting in new content as yours, you're sharing their video, you're liking their video and saying, "Great job on this. This was amazing. I'm going to add it to my page," or something like that. So again, two-way street. Give a little, receive a lot, hopefully. But it's just kind of how to use groups. And then I think the next slide should be some of the group examples. Yeah, so I found a few groups for PR professionals specifically. These groups do fall into that range of what I was just saying. I believe you all will get the slides, so hopefully these are there. So you can just literally just search these and they'll all pop up. But these are, for example, just general PR media relations or public relations, corporate and media community. There's literally so many groups. Or ones just people in the entertainment industry or women in public relations, which I think that group, I looked at the group, and that group is a very good size, and it seems that they're pretty active in there. So I think that's actually a great group to join if you can. But like I said, whether you do journalism, media, any of these things, there's a group for you, there's a community for you. Join it, engage, help some people out. It'll really kind of benefit you on the long run.
Thank you for that. Tennille has a question for you, Jazz. She writes, "What do you think about LinkedIn adding stories to their platform? I don't like it because they all do it. LinkedIn seems different. So what are your thoughts on that?"
So I don't love LinkedIn adding stories, but I think that LinkedIn and all these apps are just trying to compete and keep up with one another, and so stories are really good because they're a little less, there's less production behind it, if that makes sense. So stories are really good for like behind the scenes things and more impromptu things or more personal things. And so I think that that's actually something that LinkedIn probably could use more of, because LinkedIn has become a lot of articles and a lot of, very salesy, look at all these things. But I think that us showing up as ourselves will actually make the platform a little bit more impactful. So I'm excited about, I can't say I'll use it, but I'm excited about it. And I'll definitely recommend for other people to use it, definitely. Yeah.
Great. Okay. Oh, we have one more.
Oh yeah. Oh, there was one more. I forgot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Here's one more.
Yeah. So if you are using LinkedIn, as a lot of us are, to attract new business for yourself, there's a few ways you should go about that. So I always say, starting with, if you have a niche, you need to celebrate it. If there's something that you do that's different than the way everyone else does it, celebrate those things, tell that story and highlight it. Include details about what you're looking for in a client. So whether they're again in a particular industry, or whether you're looking for a long versus a short-term project, or maybe you want like an actual relationship that's not just a project, you want to actually a partner, you want something like that. Say that explicitly. That's perfectly fine. Or maybe there's certain initiatives right now, or just generally, that are really important to you that you want to support in some kind of way, whether that's social justice or racial and gender equity. And so you can say, hey, I want to work with organizations that are like what we do, Wayward Kind, organizations that are doing stuff related to this because it's important to me. It's really important to who I am. And so say that, and hopefully those people will find you. You can start to kind of build those connections. You can use LinkedIn to search by content. So you can search for terms that relate to what you do. So if you are a PR professional, you can literally search public relations professional and see posting about. And then you can also try to be a professional on LinkedIn Pro Finder, which is set up for freelancers and consultants so that people can go find a professional. And they're basically saying, LinkedIn says, hey, we vetted these people are pros, they know what they're doing, they're good. And so people go on there to find help. So that's another, you can actually apply to be that directly on the platform. So that's something to consider as well, to kind of help with that.
Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to get to the third part of our session, but before we do that, I just want to say, for any of you who just joined us, welcome. You're here with the San Diego Press Club, and our topic tonight is Propel Your Career with LinkedIn. And so welcome to our event tonight. Just a quick reminder, put your questions in the Q&A function of our webinar, and we are recording the session. which will be posted on the San Diego Press Club website at a later date. And with that, I'd like to introduce Sage Pierce from NBC7 Telemundo.
Thank you so much, Denise. I appreciate it. And good evening, everyone. Let's get right into it. Jazz set a great platform for me here to kind of get into the recruiting and HR side of things. Bottom line, why should you have a LinkedIn profile? From the HR and recruiter standpoint, 87% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to find or look for candidates right now. And that's in journalism, advertising, and PR. That has propelled exponentially, especially during the pandemic. It has been a huge source. In the 9 months that I've been in HR, I can't tell you how many times we've began a job search, a placement search with LinkedIn. And the big reason why recruiters love to use it is retention. Employers sourced through the site are 40% less likely to leave the company within the first 6 months. And that's huge from an HR standpoint and obviously a management standpoint, because training and time and money, and you really want to develop good people so they're able to grow within the organization. I'm going to get into some more profile tips here. Some of these will overlap a little bit with Jazz. However, I have a little bit more focused on the journalism side. So you want to make sure your profile is obviously up to date, professional, and searchable by keywords. As Jazz was saying, you want to check your profile. You want to keep it fresh. Comb through for anything that may look unprofessional. Recruiters are going to be looking for keywords that are found in job descriptions, the jobs that you're applying for. These tips right here, these keywords are a little bit more general, and these kind of run the gamut for jobs. Obviously, problem solving right now in 2020, that's a huge piece of the year. Leadership, that runs the gamut of all kinds of jobs, whether you're in PR, advertising, journalism, or any job right now. Communication skills, this includes verbal and nonverbal, and writing. Writing is a giant piece of that. Another keyword that recruiters are a real buzzword right now, team building. Another word during the pandemic when everyone's on Zoom or doing webinars or Teams, really being able to keep that team cohesive in a unit where you're able to communicate while in your living room or your bedroom and while everyone's scattered around. So that's definitely one that we're honing in on right now. A biggie for journalists, digital, and multimedia journalist. Those are huge. If you have any type of digital experience, that needs to be on your LinkedIn profile. And then multimedia. And then, as Jazz said, social media as well. These tips are a little bit more, these are kind of honed in right now on journalism and specifically broadcast. However, writing, whether you can write for broadcast, print, and digital, or all three, that's going to be something you're going to want to differentiate. Content producing, which is, if you don't know, content producing is you're doing the writing and the editing, and sometimes you're making the calls as well. Remote coordinating. This is something that remote coordinating has always been a crucial piece, especially in broadcast. However, now with so many journalists who, especially TV, who aren't working in the building, everyone's working in the field, working at home, not really going back to that home base of the newsroom. Remote coordinating is so crucial. So if you have that experience, that should definitely be on your profile. Line producing, never in my 22 years in the broadcast industry did I ever think that there'd be producers producing live newscasts from their homes. And that's what's happening now. So in a matter of weeks, people were able to kind of take technology and run with it. So any type of line producing that's being done, especially now during the pandemic, remotely, is something you'll want to add. Media management, and then obviously the basics of video editing, any type of video editing, copy editing, and then the biggie, which is probably for every job, but attention to detail. And that's especially critical in PR and advertising and journalism, as we know. It's really important to let your skills shine. And I know Jazz spoke about this, but highlighting the skills you are currently using and you've learned to use during the last 9 months. As I was saying, you know, people had to kind of rethink and redevelop everything in a matter of weeks, from new technology to at-home setups. You're talking anchors anchoring from home, meteorologists having makeshift green screens so that weather could be told at home, people prompting from their bedrooms, things that were never kind of imagined. So anything that you have currently used, you know, we have directors who are working from home as well, which is really unheard of. So all of those at-home setups, new technology, all of those should be highlighted. Learning new ways to effectively communicate, whether it's like I was talking about Teams or Zoom or, you know, having webinars, all of those really lift your profile. Using new ways to shoot and edit and tell stories. There have been a lot of new ways to showcase interview subjects and the use of graphics. The use of graphics you've probably noticed on different networks now, just absolutely, you know, whether it's you're looking at weather and you have people standing in the middle of a hurricane that's just a background, but all kinds of graphics are being used to tell a story. And all of those take a lot of training. So all that training should be on your profile. And then digital stories and showcasing on social media. We talked about that a little bit. And quite frankly, all of it is how quickly you were able to adapt to that change. Because if you weren't able to adapt to that change quickly, you kind of fell behind and got lost. And I think it is really important to be able to show HR professionals and recruiters and managers that you can adapt to change and you have that confidence to find a new way to do things. Endorsements and recommendations. You know, Jazz talked a lot about this, but you know, biggies are, from a recruiting standpoint, building credibility. It's one of the first things a recruiter is going to check. And in the last few, you know, jobs that we've been looking to place someone, we've definitely been looking at that as one of the first pieces. Obviously, besides the basics on the resume, it helps grow your network. If you're in the journalism world, you know it's small and always connected. Someone you met 25 years ago, you're going to meet them again. So you don't burn any bridges in journalism. And then endorsements and recommendations help show your versatility and obviously increase your visibility among the platforms. Showing your strengths, we talked a bit about this, but promoting yourself. Sharing articles, stories, and links in the media section, absolutely imperative. Showcase your creativity and your own brand. What makes you unique? What makes your storytelling? What makes the way you can, you know, write a press release? What makes all of that unique to you? It also helps recruiters see your storytelling style, which isn't always, you know, evident in just a simple resume, or if you're looking at a reel. Differentiate you from other candidates. And then video sharing helps recruiters remember candidates. A lot of times when we're scouring through, you're going to remember that story or that one clip that you saw that's going to resonate and kind of, oh yeah, that's right, that's who that person was. It also helps increase engagement. And instead of describing what you do well, you're going to be showing it. We've said this a few times tonight, but don't be afraid to toot your own horn. Your work experience should include any award you've won, volunteer work, courses or workshops you've taken, anything that's demonstrated new leadership opportunities, anything that's been outside of the box that you've you know, gone ahead to secure, whether you've won an Emmy, SBJ Award, San Diego Press Club, any type of awards for leadership, they help showcase your talent, and that showcases your talent across the board. Workshops or conferences that help you improve, these are very important, and recruiters do look for those as well. It shows that well-rounded employee. And then, you know, Jazz mentioned this as well, but using video or photos showing you receiving those awards. It brings it to life for recruiters and hiring managers. Here's a little bit behind the scenes from the recruiting sourcing standpoint. We immediately when we are told of a job opening, we discuss the types of candidates needed and those preferences of the hiring manager and recruiter. We use market knowledge from past successes. So we look at what's worked in the past and what hasn't worked in the past. Also resources that are available to us. Recruiters are always keeping up with industry blogs, message boards, social media groups. They may not be showing you that they're active, but they're always behind the scenes looking. And they are going to congregate on those places where your candidates are posting. So this helps build pipelines. This helps build pipelines for speaker panels and all kinds of, whether it's a job workshop. It also helps you mine your current candidate base for referrals. The biggest piece of the recruiting puzzle in broadcast is talent knows talent. And I'm sure that's the same in other industries as well. But what I can say for sure is talent knows talent. So that's definitely a piece of knowledge from the recruiting standpoint. Preparing for a video interview, interviewing through a screen is much different than in person. You having your LinkedIn profile, especially having those links to video and clips, it shows your authenticity, and that shines through in your video. It helps you be yourself. It captures your experiences, your skills, your goals. And the nice thing about when you share those stories on your profile, those will often become the topics of discussion in a good interview. It also shows your human side, which Jazz talked about, and it's what helps you stand out and be remembered. These are some groups that I recommend joining for journalists. LinkedIn for Journalists, the Freelance Writers Connection, Online Reporters and Editors. Journalism Jobs is a great one. Innovation Journalism, which is another biggie right now. And then National Association Broadcasters and Broadcast and Radio Professionals. So I think we'll be sharing these, but just easy to add and some really good groups.
All right. Well, so much awesome information shared tonight, and I really appreciate you guys, you folks coming out. But I have a question. We have a question here. Do either of you, do you recommend paid features for LinkedIn? Why or why not? I want to start with Jazz on that one.
Yeah, so certain ones, yes, certain ones, no. I think that LinkedIn Sales Navigator can be a great one if you are actively looking for leads and things like that, or people to work with or things like that. Because LinkedIn Sales Navigator has really, really good filtering features, so you can kind of really tailor, like look like demographics, everything down to like company size and how many years they've been in this industry and all kinds of things to really build more meaningful and purposeful connections. Whereas something like like LinkedIn ads, I would never recommend paying for ads on LinkedIn because they're just not for the dollars spent. You're better off going on Facebook and or Instagram. So Sales Navigator is great. I did see somebody mention something about ProFinder. I think there used to be a while you had to pay for ProFinder with a part of the business version of LinkedIn, which that one does have some cool features as well. But I think that a lot of these things though, you can do for free without paying for them first. I never recommend to go the paid route first. I always try to say do it organically. That's the same way we would do it with traffic. We try to do organic traffic versus like paid stuff. So organically showing up hopefully will get you the connections and engagement that you need. Yeah.
Great. Sage, anything to add?
No, I mean, I agree. I think organic is key. And I think, from a recruiter standpoint, that money spent is not going to make a difference. It's putting that extra time into the connections, putting that extra time into finding those good links to share. That's what is going to be looked for.
All right. We have another question for you. Hashtags, should you use them? Are they effective in LinkedIn?
Yeah, they are. They don't work the same, well, kind of the same way, but they don't work the way an Instagram hashtag is. So people don't, by default, a lot of people don't just search for hashtags or things. I always recommend adding a few hashtags to posts. I recommend adding for LinkedIn. I don't do a lot. Like Instagram, people do 20 and 30 hashtags. We don't do that on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, maybe add 3 to 5. And then if you do, add them towards the end of your post. Don't add your hashtags in the context. So don't say like, I am working with hashtag leaders at this thing. You do all the hashtags at the end. It looks a lot better if it's formatted a lot cleaner. But hashtags they help your content show up. So you can add a few.
Great. We have a question from Dina. She asks, how useful are LinkedIn job listings?
Sage, you want to take that one?
Sure. They are fantastic, extremely useful. It's something that recruiters and managers are going to look at right away as well. That's kind of how some of the top filters start, especially if you're in a larger organization like I'm in right now at NBC, where you have owned and operated stations, and then you have your other stations, and it's a huge network. So those are shared, and those are shared between the recruiters, the HR managers and directors, and the hiring managers. So it is really, really important for visibility.
Great. Let's see if there's any more questions. I had just checked the chat. All right. I have one more question for you guys here. So if someone asks you, or the rhetorical you, or for a recommendation, what are the best things to include? If somebody asks me and I like kind of freeze up, and I have to really think about it, but what's a way, what are some things to include, and how do you make that more of a natural recommendation?
Yeah, so I think that for recommendations, I think it's try to include what led you to the work. So what the first thing was, whether you went to that person or the person came to you, say that. Okay. The nature of the work. So what exactly it was that you did. So don't get explicit, of course. You don't have to but say, generally, we work together on this thing, or I work with them for this long. And then I think adding some feeling in there. So some feeling about how you felt and or how they felt or how the relationship felt. So you felt, if working with somebody made you feel relief, or like I said, feeling supported, that's really important. Add those words in, because those are the things that we as people, we all relate to. So it's not enough just to say, yes, I worked with them for 6 months and he was awesome. That's not enough. Also say a little bit more. We worked on 6 months on these things. He was a great team member. He was always available when I needed him. And I'd love to work with him again. I'm giving all the feelings. So, I really like what I did with this guy. So doing some of that kind of stuff, I think is helpful for those.
Sage, anything to add?
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, it's those keywords and buzzwords. If you can relate to a specific experience, whether it was someone who demonstrated leadership and they gave you remember that experience, whether it was in a breaking news situation, or you remember the teamwork and the assistance they gave you. Those are the keywords and buzzwords, and those are the stories that recruiters and HR folks are going to really remember and help you.
Great. So any last words from our panelists? Anything else you would like to add or share that maybe we didn't cover tonight?
No, I think have fun on LinkedIn. I think especially for what you all do, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be buttoned up and very article-y and very that. You all aren't accountants, it doesn't have to be that. So you can have some fun, you can have some personality, if you're passionate about things, if you have interests, if you're a collector of a random thing, make that a post sometimes. It doesn't have to just be, you're showing up as all of you, so maybe not show your breakfast every morning on your story, but you can have some fun with it. It doesn't have to just be articles and links to your website. I think that's one of the best ways to kind of stand out, because you're doing something that's different than everyone else on there. So
yeah, that's great advice.
Sage, any famous last words?
No, I think Jazz stole my thunder there.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. No, I definitely agree though. I think, just the authenticity is extremely important. So I think bottom line.
Right. Especially in this very virtual world,
Yes.
and your first line of contact is your LinkedIn profile or your social media, and we're not able to really connect at networking events and whatnot, like in person. So I think all of these, all that you shared tonight, I think really will help all of us bring our personal brand and bring our expertise to life, you know.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find time right now how how to weave it into my work week to really
Mhm.
focus on LinkedIn. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it.
Of course, this is fun.
Great. Well, thank you again for coming tonight. Again, thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of our attendees for spending some time with us. I think we covered a lot of ground in less than an hour. Again, reminder, connect with our panelists on LinkedIn, connect with our other attendees on LinkedIn, connect with your San Diego Press Club board members on LinkedIn, because again, we're all here for each other. It's about the networking, right? So let's make a point to do that and do that more often. Reminder, we're looking for members. As the second vice president on the board, I'm in charge of membership. So I would love to see, we've got a lot of new faces joining, and we have a lot of renewals. So thank you again. Thank you for renewing your membership. If you are a non-member, please consider joining. That information is on our website at sdpressclub.org. Again, this recording will be posted on the San Diego Press Club website very soon. So thank you again for coming, and have a good night. See you later.